so excited today.
And me, Fanshen Cox, we sure are. We continue to uplift Black women plus making it in the entertainment industry. And today we have Miss Dominique Ulloa, who rose from being employee number 2 in the post-production office of Oprah Winfrey Network. She went on to become a Peabody Award-winning documentary editor. She worked on the explosive Lifetime documentary Surviving R. Kelly, and she was a contributing editor for the upcoming feature documentary films by the folks that made Minding the Gap and The Great Hack. She has also worked on several other nonfiction and documentary projects across TV, film, and digital. Now, she is currently an artist in residence in documentary editing at Concordia Studio, which is a nonfiction studio founded by an Inconvenient Truth director, Davis Guggenheim, and was named as a Karen Schmier Film Editing Fellow in 2020.
What?
Dominique!
Yes, hi.
So great to
Thank
have you
you.
on the Sister Brunch.
That sounded great.
Yeah, you're cool.
Because you are great.
We're
Thank
so
you.
excited
Yes.
to have you.
So good.
Thank
so
you.
good.
So glad to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. So we like to start this podcast by asking our guests to tell us a little bit about where they started and how they got to where they are now. So take us on that
Wow.
journey.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is a hell of a ride. Okay, so it was 2006. I had a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Wow.
And I decided I was going to go back to school and finish my degree. I went to Cal State LA.
Oh, wow.
Where I connected with Fanshen and our late great friend, Dr. Kelly Madison.
Yes.
And majored in radio, television, film there. In my senior year, I entered Cal State LA's Film Festival and won for Best Documentary and Best Experimental Editing.
Wow.
And so through that, through that Best Documentary Editing project that I made, I got hired in my senior year to start editing for the paparazzi. And so my senior year, Cal State LA, I was making $25 an hour. You couldn't tell me nothing. I'm like, okay, well, here we go.
Wait, Dominique, back up. What do you mean for the paparazzi?
Yeah, what does that
What am I
mean?
For
missing?
the paparazzi. So I worked for a company called X17, and they're a photo agency. They supplied photos and videos of celebrity at that time, the year 2008. So that's when Britney Spears was shaving her head.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know,
Okay.
they were going all the Kevin Federline stuff and all that drama. So I actually knew the photographer who videotaped her shaving her head and her hair hitting the umbrella against his car. But the thing about that is that she opened the blinds so the photographers could get the shot.
Yeah, yeah.
And she could have easily closed the blinds and nobody would have seen that.
Yeah,
But she made sure the blinds was open so the cameras could get the angle to see her shaving her head. And like, here's the thing with celebrities, if they don't want to be seen, they don't have to be seen.
Right.
You never see Tom Hanks. He don't want to
Right.
be seen.
Right.
You know, there's people and if they have a new album coming out, you know, pre-COVID,
And you suddenly see them.
suddenly you're having lunch at the Ivy on the patio.
Yeah.
You know,
So
Yeah.
what exactly were you doing for them, Dominique? Like,
I was an editor. I was a night shift editor, and I was it was my senior year, so I went to school all day. And then I went from 4 to like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I worked as an editor, and I did that every day with 2 kids.
That's where people are like, we'll give you $10,000 if you send us video of so-and-so walk. And then you would take that video and edit it down.
They would follow people around, like, okay,
Oh,
Britney
okay.
Spears went to CVS, Starbucks, and the gas station today.
Yeah.
And so they bring it to me, and then I would just trim the fat and get the shots or whatever. And then we send a mass mail out to Good Morning America.
Oh, my God.
Da-da-da-da-da. And they would, it's like AP. Like,
Yeah.
they're buying the photos from the photogs.
Oh, wow.
So, like,
okay.
we got Misha Barton and her first appearance since the baby.
Yeah,
You know, like,
yeah. Okay.
I'm glad you used the phrase "trim the fat" in this because you do that a lot as an editor, right? And especially assistant editor. That's basically what you do when you start, right?
My whole job. Like, that is not kind of what I do.
It's
That's
what-
exactly what
Okay. Still,
I'm a
right.
fat trimmer.
Yeah.
So from there, from the paparazzi, I like went back here and there. You know, I was still wanting to be in development and thought like I would do like more development route, more corporate route. What happened is that through a temp agency, I got hired at the Oprah Winfrey Network. And I was only supposed to be there as somebody who did the QC of the videos of Oprah's contest and Oprah's Next New Star for the launch of her network.
Okay.
And so everybody sent in these videos. So I'm just there to QC.
And QC will say is quality control.
Quality control. Right? So make sure there's no cussing, there's no labels, there's no Coke bottles, there's no things that they're just making it good for air. So I'm going through all these videos and like, seeing the ones that's going forward, rejecting the thing. And I was like one of 30 temps. At the end of that week, I was in charge of all the temps. And then from there, I parlayed that into working as an assistant editor on one of their, on the show that they eventually made about it. And then they would bring me back to be, an assistant in their development department. And then, they just like Oprah Winfrey Network kept retaining me. So, I kept getting carried over. The Oprah Winfrey Network was keeping me. And then I was working as an assistant editor for this show. And then one day I saw the budget. And the editor that I was working under was making $700 a day. And then from that day forward, I was like, I'm an editor. Call me editor. That's what I do.
Yes.
That's my career. Call me editor. Everyone, that's my name now. I'm an editor.
Hey, y'all, you're listening to Sister Brunch with Anya Adams and Fanshen Cox. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Sister Brunch. I'm Fanshen, and we are back with Dominique Ulloa.
I got hired as staff as employee number 2 of the post-production operations at the Oprah Winfrey Network. So that meant like all their promos and all their shows and like the episodes would come in from production companies and we like get it ready to go to the satellite and like the operations part, the very technical part of the network. So I was a part of that. And then I flim-flammed in networks for a while, worked for the Africa Channel for a minute. Then I ended up getting laid off. Oh. And so that plunged me into freelance. And so from there, I went to assistant editing at World of Wonder for a while. And that's RuPaul's Drag Race.
Did you do RuPaul's Drag Race?
Yes, RuPaul's Drag Race. Like I was an assistant. Oh. This is like season 3, like an assistant. I was an assistant dedicated to that show.
Oh, okay.
I was doing $1 Million Listing, $1 Million Listing Miami, and $1 Million Listing Los Angeles a little bit, and then Big Frida. They made Big Frida, so the Queen of Bounce. So I was working on that show. So I was working on like just a lot of different shows there, and it's a reality show factory. Yeah. So like you work the night shift.
Wait, how did you do that with kids?
That's a great question because at the time my son was 13 and my daughter was 9, and there was a period of time where I had to leave them at home alone. Wow. And I would come home on my lunch break. My lunch break would be like 11 o'clock, midnight. Wow. And I would run home and make sure everything was okay. And then, I'd have dinner for them before I left. My son slept on the couch with a BB gun a lot. Oh. He became like really the man of the house. Yeah. And I would check on them, and then I come home, and then my mom or their dad would take them to school in the morning, because I couldn't get back up at 7. And I would just tell them, make sure you don't leave without kissing me goodbye. Yeah. And so but don't wake me up. Yeah. So I went through that for a while, and then just started freelancing, going on different shows and honing my craft and getting my chops.
I just want to mention that's an important point for people who are interested in editing or post production, that a lot of times as you're getting started, you're probably going to be working these late hours because the footage comes in at the end of the day, and you're the one that's, quote, trimming the fat all night so that they can be ready
in the morning. And see, most tradition pre-COVID, most production companies, they had their post-production in-house, and there's only so many edit bays. Yeah. So in the daytime, you have 10 edit bays, you have 10 editors working, and then the nighttime, you have the night shift come in and get them ready for the next day. Yeah. So that's usually, they film, you process it, you make all your multi-groups, you do the sound, you do all this other kind of stuff. and then you get it ready for the editors. You know, you do string out so they can start editing all day or whatever. And they usually have like one day person that's there in the day to help. But there's a staff that comes in at night for like, that's more for like your production companies that do a lot of unscripted. I freelanced assistant editors for a while, and then I got to affirm and pray and meditate my way into the edit chair. And it was really like one of those things that, you know, it was just, people ask me all the time, like, how did you do it? Because there's, get the bump to editor is a lot. And especially as a woman, and especially as a woman of color. Because all these white boys don't know, they think you don't know what you're doing. And they don't take you seriously. It's hard to elevate in the post-production world when you don't like Star Wars and you don't play beer pong.
Plus, you're the only one in the room when you do get it, right?
And you know, you're not getting invited to happy hour. You're not going to lunch with them. You're not, you know, they're not including you. You're just there to do your job and leave. And they're looking at, you know, pre-George Floyd, you really had to show and prove yourself as an editor. And so I was blessed to have this opportunity. Actually, like I had just got laid off from a job that I thought that was going to go on for like a couple months, and ended up being like, you know, they cut my assignment short by like 2 months. And so like I like was going to church, and I went to like go to Bible study, and then a friend of mine, he worked at production company, and he was like, I know for a fact they're looking for editors. And through that connection, I was able to go into the editing chair, but like all the time that I was assistant editor, I would write on Post-it notes, I'm an editor. I'm an editor. I'm successful. I'm like, so I always had these affirmations for years before I actually got the opportunity to edit. And then that happened, and then I started working on Court TV, doing like your Judge Maybelline, your Judge Alex, your Judge Christina, doing all that stuff. But listen, that's a master class in story, because you have 2 legal cases that you have to tell in 42 minutes. That's one is 3 acts, the other one is 2 acts. They all have points and story beats that they have to make, and you have to do it in like 5 acts.
This is Sister Brunch with Fanshen and Anya Adams. Stay tuned for more of our conversation with documentary editor Dominique Ulloa.
Welcome back to Sister Brunch. I'm Anya, and we're back with Dominique Ulloa.
When I did my internship while I was at Cal State LA, I learned so much about all the mistakes I had made as an actor, you know, over the years by editing other people's work. And then it reinforces your storytelling skills, because you get just a load of stuff, and you're the person who puts it all together.
I always think about it as a way, like somebody gives you like a mound of clay. And it's your job to make something out of it. Like,
especially in reality, where it's like you're fabricating story out of.
I always say, editors or writers, we just write with pictures. That's a skill that you have to learn how to do. You have to know like when to let it breathe. When it, you know, the comedic timing, the score, the feeling, you know, all of those things are all, you know, how to stay on the moment. Oftentimes, like, I haven't done it yet, but this is my plan coming up, is to take the classes for directors for actors. Because learning about performance. Like from a director's standpoint, because that's going to help in the editing bay. To learn like the performance aspect of it, and, you know, to really like pay attention to, you know, when to go with the emotion. When to fall back, the breathing of the scene. So it is a lot of that. It's storytelling. And let me tell you something. This is for all my people in post-production. Everybody's goal as an assistant editor is to become an editor. Most people, right? Some people like assistant editing because it's just you get paid a lot of money and just generally get left the fuck alone. But becoming an editor is a huge feat in itself. But it's not getting your first job. Is getting your second job. Because now you're competing with people who've been doing this for 30 years. And you got 1 credit. You've done one thing. Like, and so now you're playing in a whole different ball game. And that was really difficult for me. That was extremely difficult to make that transition. So I did a lot of digital. I did some nonprofit stuff. You know, I was doing, you know, just trying to make my way. And then I was able to landed a job during the 2018 Winter Olympics.
Oh, wow.
And what happened with that is that it was Christmas time. And you know, Christmas time, December is slow in the industry. And so the Winter Olympics coming along, and I got hired as an assistant editor. And then my post supervisor said, listen, I know you're overqualified for this. Mm-hmm. I know, you know, but can you just come on as an assistant because we need somebody with your experience?
Yeah.
And it's Christmas time. So I'm like, yeah,
I'll take it.
Yeah, like I'll take
Gotta
it.
Get
yeah,
stuff for
I
my
need
kids
like we want some Christmas trees.
Yeah,
so yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went on, and I was just bored to death.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I took a bunch of archive footage, and I cut a crowd promo, and I showed it to my post supervisor. And she was like, you know, this is super cute.
Yeah.
Here's some scripts. Now you're an editor.
Go ahead.
And so I was able, thank you. I was able to parlay that into becoming an editor.
Yes.
And so my packages, like I started getting packages at that point. And so like I was doing both. I was still in charge of assistant editing, still in charge of operations, but then I was also editing packages as well.
Wow.
They wasn't paying me more though.
No, of course not.
They went, you know, they were like, you can have the title.
Dominique, this is a good segue into what the kind of challenges you might have, because you are the storyteller and yet you are also beholden to the director, right? And, you know, to all the other folks working on the project. So have you noticed challenges in working with directors who don't take your thoughts or your choices for cuts seriously because of, you know?
In general, whenever I get something, I always do my vision first. Like, this is my vision. This is how I see it. Let me get the art out.
Yeah.
Like, this is how I see it.
Right.
After I show you that first presentation, whatever you do now is just a paycheck. Like, okay, now I said what I had to say. You like it, you don't like it. My feelings are out. Now tell me what to do. And then from there, it's like, now it's in the director's hands. Like, if you make it shitty, I made it good first. Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion. And then there's also the you know.
Wait a minute. As a director.
As a director. Here we go.
I'm going to call you on that because I think that's kind of bullshit. Yeah. And I, as a director, really like my relationship with editors because I feel like it's a collaborative experience. So even though you're giving me your vision, I think together we make... Like, I like to collaborate in the edit base. So I feel like you create the base, and then as a team, we move forward, right?
When I say that, it's exactly that. It's creating the base. You're making the skeleton. Yeah. You're making, like, the root. Yeah. Essentially.
Right. Yeah.
And
it is collaborative because it's the director's work that you're cutting together.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in your first cut.
But sometimes, for people that don't edit, you'll get a paper cut that's 30 minutes over, you know, what this 10 minutes supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so that in that case, you have to make editorial decisions. Right. And I think that's the importance of the editors to watch everything. Yeah. Like, that's my first step. When I get into an edit and I start on a project, first thing I do is I read the transcripts. Because if there's an interview, I want to know what they said on paper. Yeah. So that, because there's things in your listening and conversation that you might not check, that you might not pick up on, that may have more gravitas when you're reading it. Yeah. When you go back and read people's words. Yep. Yeah. So I like to go through the transcripts. Then I like to watch everything. Yeah. And then after I watch everything, I present what I think what it is. Unless there's some like structured scripts, because that is that sometimes, you know, like you come in and everything's already strung out. I've already made my selects. Here's what it is. Then I'm like, oh shit, okay, you good to go. All right, here it is. You know, but if it's like, here's the pilot. Yeah. You know, like, or here's the project. Tell me what you think. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you what I think. Also, what a lot of directors do, I find, is that they're there, they shoot, but they don't watch everything back themselves. Right. They don't watch it until the edit. Yeah. And then see what you saw with your eyes and what comes out on camera may be two different things. Right. Yeah. Right. And so
that is true. You know, that is so true.
You know, you may think a moment is there, but it may not translate on camera. Yeah. Or something that does translate on camera, you didn't even pick up in the interview. You didn't even pick up in that scene because it was like, until you saw it back, like, whoa. So you do that, but then, you know, at the end of the day, it's the director's project, right?
But I also think, like, you guys see, like, as a director, I'm also like, oh my God, it was a day that we had like 5 minutes left and I need to get this last little piece, or like, oh, we tried for like 5 hours and I came out and I like, you know, you think you got it. And then that's what I love about editors, is then you guys get all this footage. You have no emotional connection to it.
Yeah.
Only the property. So you can make that like very like, you can craft a piece and show the director, and they can be like, oh, fuck, oh, this is great, or oh my God, you know, in the moment there, I missed this. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that's so awesome.
That is, shout out to Janine Daniels, is one of my favorite directors to work with, and and back in the day we were working on the webisode for Black and Sexy TV, and she would just dump this footage off on me.
Oh my God!
And I would have to go through everything and make a 30-minute episode on the weekend when I was working midnights at World of Wonder.
Ooh.
And so I was turning these around, but one thing that she always said is that I always took the takes that she hated and made them work. I would say, she was like, I hated that take, but I really love the way you did it. Or I like the way, you know, like, and I always got her story. Like, she really, you know, her story, the way it may not have come out edited how she envisioned it, but the story was told how she wanted it.
Yeah.
And that's a separate skill set.
Yeah.
You know, in editing. That's a separate story and technical editing. Anybody could put together an edit for you. It takes another skill set to put out a story.
Yes.
So, and that takes a lot of, you know, creative decisions. I think it's instinct, you know, and I think, you know, Black people are especially, like, I think that are attuned to that for the fact that we just have the instinct of timing.
Yeah.
And humor and wit. And, you know, catching things that, you know, that essence.
Hey, it's Fanshen, and you're listening to Sister Brunch. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We're back to our conversation with award-winning documentary editor Dominique Ulloa.
Let's talk about surviving R. Kelly. What was it like? Like,
Oh boy, that was just a very intense experience. The process was, it was 6 episodes and it was 6 hours long, and I was on a staff of 20 editors. And it was the most Black women I've ever worked with in my life. Like, I think it was like 5 Black female editors. It was a tumultuous time because the editing of R. Kelly went on as the story was happening in real time. His girlfriends were still posting videos to Facebook saying that they were okay, and people was looking for them in hotels, and it was 54 interviews and 30 years of archival. So talk about masterclass in story. You have so many moving parts, and then you have to take it into consideration: what is emotion, what's fact, and what's slander. Because if you go into slander, you're going to discredit all the people who just poured their hearts out and told their story. And one thing I have to say about that is just, you know, if you have a woman from 1994 and you have a woman from 2017 and they're different ages and they live in different cities and they never met each other, but they have the exact same story, they're not lying. They're not lying. It was a time when the Bill Cosby trial was going on, and the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings. So my world was just full of just sexual assault everywhere. So every day was kind of like a Calgon take me away moment. Like, just all this, you're just like you're hearing these crazy stories, and a lot of it we couldn't even show on television because it would make it X-rated. Like, there's details that we just couldn't put out there, but this man was horrible.
How do you feel like the story that you guys told with this stable of like amazing Black women, what was that working environment like?
We really told the line. And at the time I was editing Surviving R. Kelly, my daughter was 14.
Wow.
So I'm telling this story from a first-hand perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling it from a mother. And the other, shout out to LaRonda Morris, who did episode 6, an amazing episode, and like the closing one. She's a mother.
Yeah.
You know? And so the backstory of Surviving R. Kelly is that when they initially did it, they had a staff of all Black editors. And those editors quit because the showrunner was there, and he was this white guy, and he just didn't really know R. Kelly, and didn't really know the significance of it, and really tried to like romanticize him at first,
right?
And so and then the editors all quit.
They quit. Wow.
They quit in protest. And shout out to all the editors, the first round of editors, because that project wouldn't have been what it was without them.
Wow.
And so that forced Buna Murray's hand to hire a new showrunner, fire that guy, and then fill up with Black women.
That gives me the chills.
I'm so
because
glad you shared that. Yeah.
That's insane. Can I just ask, in this kind of sequence, you each get to edit an episode. Is there a director for the overhaul kind of like series, and then you guys create
the main director and the showrunner and everyone was Dream Hampton.
Or Dream,
and so Dream Hampton. So she's overall creative, and so she's the one on set with the interviews. But there's still a bevy of assistant editors.
Sure.
But then that it goes to the showrunner, goes to the EP. It goes to post supervisor, and it goes to story producers. Shout out to the story producers, because they're keeping track of how everything is going.
Yeah,
and so with each episode, we're working with our own story producer and the showrunner.
Okay,
because it's already been directed, right? It's already it's already in the field, and all these interviews and everything's done. Now the showrunner, the EP, and the story producers are now making this 6-hour docuseries. And so like that was a lot of moving parts, but then there was again we had the slander situation where actually I actually got into a lot of trouble at Buna Murray, kind of like a who do you think you are moment, when I was like, look, we can't say this because it's, even though this person's been hurt by R. Kelly, it's irrelevant. We don't know, like, we don't want to know how she feels about him. We need to know what happened.
Right.
And so I got a little backlash, like, who do you think you are?
Oh, wow.
But they did end up taking out those
there you
scenes.
go. Yeah.
You don't regret it, because like you got
no, not at all,
too, right? Yeah,
not at all. And like opinions and hearsay, really,
you can't include them. You have to.
If they're not pushing the story forward, it's just filler.
Right.
And so we had to really make that distinction. Like, is this pushing the story forward, or is this just slander?
Right.
And shout out to Astral Monique Finney. It was one of the main story producers of Surviving R. Kelly. She had to really toe the line with a lot of executives and writers there who just wanted to walk over her, about how the story should be portrayed. And she stood her ground. And because of that, it became what it was. I mean, like, you think about, like, a post-staff, these are people who didn't even know who R. Kelly was.
Right.
And to be honest, Buna Murray thought that this was just going to be a one-off thing on Lifetime that was going to go away.
Right.
They had no idea.
And
I told one of my coworkers, I told one of my fellow female editors, I was like, one or two things is going to happen. Either this is going to blow up and it's going to be like Emmy nominated and it's going to be amazing, or Black Twitter's going to tear this apart.
Right?
There's only two things that are going to happen. Only one or two things is going to happen. But from their perspective, they're not even in that world.
They don't know it
They don't even know what they up against. They don't even know. They have no idea.
Right.
And after it came out, they sent us all an email, and they were like, we had no idea. They thought it was going to be like a Making Bobby Brown.
Right.
They thought it was going to be like a Unsung.
Yeah.
They thought it was just going to be like, oh, we might get some good ratings, but this is not really, who the fuck is this? Who cares? Yada, yada, yada. Turns out a lot of people cared.
Hi, it's Anya, and you're listening to Sister Brunch. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Sister Brunch. I'm Fanshen, and we are back with Dominique Ulloa. You are yet another one of our guests that not only is about the work for yourself, but also about getting other people hired. So we talk about Posted Up and Ujima Entertainment.
Yes. So I am the chair of Ujima Entertainment Coalition. And what we are is a 501c3 nonprofit for Black entertainment professionals. And when I say Black entertainment professionals, we are not a group for people of color. We're not an umbrella, all-encompassing situation. This is for Black people.
Okay.
And we say that because one of our main objectives is to address anti-Blackness.
Okay.
And you may have a production company, I always pose these questions to my white brothers and sisters. If you are on a job or you're looking to fill a position and you get a resume by a girl named Shamika, and if you have a knee-jerk reaction to that, you may be anti-Black.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that resonates with so many people because it's not necessarily, that people are racist and they, wanted segregation and this and that. It's a product of living in America.
Yeah.
It's a product. If you've watched television for the past, however long you've been along,
media has shaped anti-Black. Media is anti-Black.
Anti-Black.
All of it.
And you've been indoctrinated into this.
Sure.
And so it takes a consciousness to undo.
Yeah.
And so it's not about, we're not about, diversity and inclusion and hiring and everything because, Black people get hired. We get hired. It's about the retention and it's about the promotion. Will season 1 go on to season 2? Will an assistant become the associate producer? Are they going to be bumped up to, regular producer or whatever the case may be? Once they get into this environment or whatever project that they're working on, what kind of environment are they about to be in? The inconvenient truth about working in Hollywood is that most people ain't from Hollywood. This is their first time being in a diverse environment. So they bring all that bullshit with them.
Yeah.
You can't talk to one Black person in the industry without them having a story.
Yeah.
And I talk to production companies all the time and in meetings and I explain to them, this is about microaggressions and anti-Blackness and I always hear, oh, no, we would never do anything like that. That's not the people who we hire here. No. But I was like, have you talked to DeAndre in The Vault?
Right.
Do he have a story?
Have you listened to his
Have you listened? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Have you talked to the Black people on your staff? Do you know?
Yeah.
You even know if you're doing it? One thing that I always bring up is the word girl. And how
I love
it. Jessica in accounting don't mean no harm.
Right.
But all of a sudden, I'm your girl.
Right.
When really, I'm 42 motherfucking years old. It's a long time since I've been a girl. Mm-hmm. So now we've established that, your first interaction with me is based on racial stereotypes.
Yeah.
You don't know if I was adopted in a white family and raised in Minnesota.
Right.
You don't know if I relate to that hood culture at all.
Yeah.
And then we've also set the precedent that you don't have to be as professional with me.
Right.
That you don't have to, that you have this level of comfort with me where we just girl. And it's really not done in harm. It's done in people trying to relate to you.
People trying to relate.
Oh, yeah, they're
relate to you. People trying to, and it's like, what are you going to do? Be angry? Right. But it's like, how do you navigate that? Yeah. And so it's important that we have these conversations.
Yes.
And so what I do is, with my organization is that I have curated conversations and I get with production companies and I get hiring managers and people who are in position to hire. And I curate members, and we get together on the Zoom.
That's fantastic.
And we talk for 2 hours. This is relationship building with your peers.
Yeah.
You're being opened up to a whole new talent pool that you didn't even know about.
Yeah.
And so this is an opportunity for you to make your content better.
Yeah.
Yep.
And your businesses run more smoothly.
Yeah.
And so this is just you're making new friends. That's all it is.
Yeah. You're
just making new friends. And so that's what we do. And 2019, we estimated that we posted 1,500 jobs.
Wow.
We have 1,200 members internationally. Most of them are in Los Angeles and New York, but we have members in UK, Africa, Caribbean, and Australia. Our membership is referral only, so someone needs to bring you in.
Got
and
you.
it's you're not joining Posted Up. You're joining Ujima.
Which is not just for editors, it's for everyone in the industry.
It's for everyone. It's from showrunners down to PAs.
That's awesome.
It's for everyone.
Are you still running Posted Up? Only because I also think there's a lot to be said for filtering out positions. So with the inclusion writer, we get, people like, oh, how do I find, a line producer? And so I like to also be able to have a specific place for them to go where they know. So are you still running Posted Up on Facebook?
Yes, it's all interconnected. Okay, and so all of our official stuff though is Ujima. What we've done is created a safe space for Black people to be themselves. Here's the thing. Like, we are far away from any type of atonement or reparations or anything that the United States is about to do for us. Mm-hmm. And in lieu of that, we need to help each other. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, while you waiting for these reparations, let's start paying them to ourselves. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so that's what we try to do. We try to make it easier for you as a Black entertainment professional to get put on. One thing I will say about editing and like being in the entertainment business in Hollywood and everything else like that, my career didn't start taking off really until I started helping other people too. When I started helping other people, that's when my career took off like a skyrocket. No doubt. And I see like a lot of people who've been doing this for a long time and get frustrated and like don't, you're not making the progress that you wanted to make, and you have a big some big wins over here, but it's far and few between. Ask yourself, like, well, what are you doing to help other people? Yeah. Okay. Like how are you contributing? Because a lot of people like just want to be on themselves. They got the gig, they got 2 or 3 people that they trust. That's it. They don't really help and especially if you're a Black person, you got put on. You don't want too many Black people there because they may not be the special one. You want to be the special. You want to be the only. Right. Yeah, like maybe your career would be a lot further if you would help somebody. Yeah.
What a freaking great note to end on. Like that's amazing.
Absolutely. That's it. You in order for you to work, you got to help other people work. Yeah. And I'll just say in wrapping up too how important it is to have you on a guest, because one, we haven't had an editor yet, and it's so important, and two, that you're a mom. And that, we haven't talked about that on this podcast. And obviously, since this is women, and that's going to be a part of our lives. And so we just are so grateful to you, Dominique.
Thank you.
That was our conversation with Dominique Ulloa. Go to sisterbrunch.com to learn more about her work and how to keep up with her on all the socials. And thank you so much for listening to Sister Brunch with me, Fanshen Cox, and Anya Adams. Follow us on Instagram at Sister Brunch Podcast and on Twitter at Sister Brunch to catch up with us, find out what we're watching, who we're talking to, support the work of all of our amazing Black women plus guests. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Sister Brunch Podcast. And please, please, please help us out by subscribing and rating and sharing and reviewing our show wherever you get your podcasts. Our show producer is Brittany Turner. Our executive producer is Christabel and Siabwadi. We acknowledge that the land we record our podcast on is the original land of the Tongva people, for those of us in Los Angeles, and for Coast Salish for Anya in Vancouver. Tune in next time.